The first thing to understand is, yes, there are grids. 3D, 4D, 5D Gaia exists all around us. The fourth dimensional bridge gives us access to all of them at the same time. Right now, we are going in and out of grids. And some of us have missions to work within the 3D grids and to code them. And that means that I want you to see yourself as a sovereign being and the grids are separate to you. Cool? And just because you leave a grid, it doesn't mean, we think leaving a grid means it's like leaving a job, that you never go back there again. That's not what it means. Leaving a grid means we're no longer plugged in, which means the quantum architecture that plugged us into that grid no longer exists. Doesn't mean we can't go into that grid and do some work and come out of that grid. Every time I enter an airport, I'm entering a third density architecture. It's 3D grid. Every time I enter a bank, a shopping center, I'm going into the 3D grid. You go into the 3D grid all the time. Now, within the 3D grid is a realm that you have as a human being, you have a skill set in, and you could go and get some resources, which means that you could go there very easily. And just like I go there to get some food or to fly to another frigging country, you can go there and collect some money resources that are going to enable you to continue building your beautiful mission temple of light. And as you go there, the codes of light that you hold in your field will be left in that grid. Which means it's beautiful, because you're, just by you being in this grid, you're changing the frequency of this grid. It's why we came to planet Earth, to be part of the collective. It's identical, macro, micro. Does this resonate with you? Hence why you've been getting this download of, hey, you're a bridge. This has been, your soul family's been trying to tell you this. But because there's been confusion of what it means to leave a grid, it's been challenging to receive it. Does that make sense? Leaving a grid just means you're no longer plugged into it. Doesn't mean you can't go back there. The plugins are gone and you can't. So it's kind of like, I've renovated you, took the electric cord out and took the socket out of the wall and sealed up the socket with plaster. Even if the friggin' cord's trying to plug back in, there's no socket. Sometimes when it comes to building our beautiful mission empires of light, we look for investors. And the investors can come by someone literally going, hey, I'll invest resources into your vision. Here's some money, and once it's up and running, I'd like my 20% return. Cool. Another form of investor is our time. Most of the time, if we don't have capital, so what I hear is it's not like you're sitting there with $1 million cash that you can invest into building a temple of light. In fact, when I was building this particular business, it came at the worst time. I left my ex-husband, had to sell the home to pay off his gambling debts, had a whole bunch of his stuff to, like, he'd gambled away over 60K on my credit cards. Like, I literally was negative, had to sell my car, get a more humble car, move into a humble home. And I had the money from finance because I was in finance then. So I literally worked I worked full-time in finance while I built this. The soul directive came through. The money, all the money that I made in this beautiful mission, Empire of Light, which I back then called business, for the first 2 years, I did not take 1 cent from this business. All the money that came in went back in to the mission, back into the temple. And I took money from what I was making in finance to fund it. And I was just lucky enough that that business, that was at a healthy rate. And you going into the medicine grid, you're going in for an investor. The medicine grid invests. Now, this is fucking hot, so listen. When you go in there and they give you a wage, they're investing in your temple of light on the planet. And you go there and you donate your time in order to get the resources you need to build the temple of light, to be the leader of light that you are, because you're a builder. You've said, yes, I will build a temple of light. And a builder will go and get resources. If you're not a builder, you don't have to build one. You can go work in somebody else's, but know that somebody else had to do this. Somebody else had to get the resources to build the temple of light. And they either had them from something or they had to go create them, which means the medical The medical grid gets to invest in creating a temple of light, and on some level, this is divine.
Yeah, I feel that. Thank you.
The last thing is it can take time to build a temple of light, and there's too many people out there that quit their jobs. And if you don't give building your temple of light at least 2 years without expecting anything in return, you're not getting it. We build temples of light not to take, we build them to give. And I want you to see your beautiful mission as a baby. If she's an infant and she's 2 weeks old, is she going to start making you cups of tea and cleaning the house straight away? Or is she going to take your love, your resources?
Yeah.
And if you were to see this the same way, you would know that you had a kid, you moved in with your parents, your kid's still young, your kid's still not, your kid still doesn't have a job, and it's like your kid still needs you. And that means you've got to go and get yourself a job and look after your kid. And there's no shame in that.
Thank you for that. I have been feeling shame. I'm like, oh, I failed. Look at all these other people who are succeeding in their sole business, and I'm just back at square one.
There's so many smoke and mirrors on the internet, so many people. So I'm literally in the process of writing a post about this, you know, and it's like, it's going to be called, 20 years to an overnight success with you, because for my first decade, I mastered the art of sales and influence and was in those industries. Then when I came through, I immersed myself in marketing and learning how to market and master it and obsessed about it. And I've invested over $2 million, babe, in my education around business and leadership and and the art form that I do, plus over 20 years and over $2 million. And I share this with you because that's what enables me to do what I do effortlessly right now. It's effortless, but it took 20 fucking years and over 2 mil to get here. Now, the good news is that I share so much of that, that my clients don't have to do that because I'm giving them the best of the best. And I'm actually giving them, I had to go on massive quests, climb 10 mountains, and there was no dragon egg in the first or the second one or the third one. It was not until the 10th mountain that I found the dragon egg. And my clients just get the dragon egg. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so of course it doesn't take them 20 years, yet get it that a lot of this is marketing bullshit. The people that get great results. So then when I launched this business, within 3 years, I got this business to 7 figures. And by the way, while working full-time, still in finance. Now, that is an awesome result. But you know why? Because I already had a decade of high achiever, extraordinary results. I already had so much going for me. I wasn't starting from scratch. Babe, you have not spent 20 years in sales and marketing. And the people that do well, really, really well, they have this. They'll tell you, I made $1 million in my first year. Let's have a look at what they did for the last 10. And you'll see that they fucking failed. And I swear, because I want this to ground, don't fall for it. It's there because it's calling people in to spend their money for magic pills. It's magic pill chasing. It's not, that doesn't form a queen. It doesn't form an empress. That forms a princess who wants everything handed to her on a silver platter. And it takes something to become a true leader. It takes something to lead a temple of light or a queendom of light or an empire of light. We become that version through a journey. Even this conversation is such a big part of it. Unplugging from their expectations to be your own sovereign queen. You need to lead you, and nobody else's projections matter. You need to be in your own lane. Don't look at what other people are doing. Who cares what they are doing? Do you know what? That actually slows you down. One of the greatest gifts that I've had is I didn't see what other people were doing, so I blew all the records. But it's because I didn't know I wasn't meant to do it that way. Ha! Isn't that funny? And then for others, honey, you've been at it for a second in time. There's still so many dragon eggs to find, so to speak. Take the journey, allow yourself to get an investor, give it a couple of years, but give it a couple of years with a different intention. to build something, to let it grow. Your intention is to let your mission grow up to be a healthy being, not to free you. If you have a baby for the purpose of that baby growing up to free you, can you feel the difference? It's like, that's not what we do. We're you know, if we have a child, we need to look after that child. Everything, like, to me, when I was growing all of this, that's my baby. It kept me up at night. I like, you know, I like, I've shared this story before. I literally used to get Callie to packet dye my hair in the bathroom so I could spend the extra $300 on Facebook ads, you know, 10 years ago. And because that's what mothers do. You know, if you don't have resources, you get creative. And there's no shame in that. I love telling those stories now. There is no shame in garage days of business. They're awesome. And I call them the garage days because that's what they are. You're doing it out of the basement of your parents' basement, your garage. You know, they're beautiful. 10 years from now, you'll reflect on this, how you moved into your parents. They will be so nostalgic. It'll be the nostalgia of it. The garage days, my love, you're just in the garage days. You're the band practicing in your parents' frigging garage. You haven't been discovered yet.